Guys, how's it going? It's your boy Mr. Almighty Lewis back at you with another video, and today I am going to make a full video on something I covered in yesterday's video, which I covered about how to overcome laziness. If you haven't watched it, please go ahead and watch it. I've got an IGTV series going on, so you guys can go ahead and check it out somewhere down below. And anyway, in that video I spoke about generic advice and how I absolutely hate generic advice, and I told you guys I was going to make a video roasting generic advice because it sucks. It is the worst. I hate it, and it's just absolutely pointless for it to exist, really. And in this video I want to teach you guys exactly why it's bad and why you should not take it, and how you can even possibly take generic advice and turn it into something that's actually useful, and into something that you can actually apply into your life, so that you can go ahead and make the changes, make the progress, make anything you want out of your life through some generic advice, and how can you turn it into something that's actually useful. So let's go ahead and get started. So, generic advice, why is it bad? Well, think about it here for a second. Just think about the word generic advice, okay? So if we're talking about generic advice, we're talking about generic. And generic, it pretty much means that it's trying to satisfy pretty much people in general, the general public. There isn't a specific demographic that generic advice is actually, meant for. There isn't a specific type of person, there isn't a specific type of age, there isn't a specific gender, there isn't a specific country that's going for. And that's the worst part about generic advice at this point, because you see, this generic advice can pretty much go for anybody. And that's not the advice you want, because you are not a generic person, okay? If you are watching this video right now, if you are in a personal development journey right now, you're trying to improve your life, you're trying to do things that normal people, average people don't necessarily do. If you're trying to push yourself beyond your limits, if you're trying to do things that are just outside of your comfort zone, and that are outside of your whatever it is that you're trapped right now, whatever your belief system is, you're challenging it, and you're not settling for anything just yet. You want to expand your mind, and you want to improve it. So in this case, you're not a generic person, all right? You're stepping out of the average of the many people that are out there right now. So here's the thing, like, generic advice will just not do it, because it's so generic, it's so not as specific, and it doesn't go into detail, and it's just so simplified to the point where, like, the average person can understand the advice. But here's the thing, here's what I want you to understand about advice in general. And I mean, like, this is the good type of general here. Things that work for me will not work for you, because advice itself, how is it delivered? It's delivered through words. And here's the thing, like, there's only a set amount of words that I am willing to use when I'm giving advice to somebody. I am willing to use a specific set of words that are going to resonate and connect with a specific number of people who can relate with those type of words, to who, those words have some actual meaning, and I can actually penetrate inside of their subconscious, or their mind at the very least, so that they're able to comprehend what I'm trying to tell you with that advice. I hope I'm making sense right now. But here's the thing, I want you to make a very clear distinction here between knowing and understanding, okay? So a lot of people think that knowing something is enough. And here's the thing about generic advice, it really ends there. It ends on the knowing part. Like, the advice, you see, like, somebody tells you a generic advice, like, for example, they just say, be yourself. Be yourself is a very classic and freaking annoying, and it just sucks, annoying type of advice, okay? That's the be yourself. It's a very general advice, like, if you're trying to, like, let's just say you're trying to talk to a girl, job interview or something, and you try to ask people, like, what should I do? And then they tell you, be yourself, man, be yourself. Like, what the fuck is that? So, like, be yourself, first of all, it lacks depth. Like, what the hell does that even mean? Like, if you really think about it, like, what does be yourself actually mean? And you come to figure that it actually doesn't have any specific meaning. It's just like, be yourself. Like, what does that mean? Does that mean, should I be like Should I be this way? Should I be that way? Because if for those of you who don't know, we change. We're not the same person in every interaction. Like depending on who we're talking to, we normally express different types of ourselves. So if you're asking somebody to just be themselves, like what self are you actually asking for? Because like you can be yourself with your parents, and then you could be another self with your girlfriend, boyfriend, then you could be another self with your boss, then you could be another self with your friends, then you could be a whole different self but when you're by yourself. So like you have to understand like what exactly does that even mean to be yourself. Like that's just a fucking stupid advice. Like seriously, like if you're giving this advice, please just stop giving that advice of be yourself. It really sucks. It's bad. It's not doing anybody any good, and it's not doing you any good if you're hearing this advice from other people. So, if you agree with me, please leave it down in the comment section below. But here's the thing: be yourself. It's really easy to just say, "Oh yeah, I know what it's like to be myself." Big deal, right? It's not helpful at all. If you really think about it, knowing knowing to be yourself is not enough. You have to actually understand what it actually means to be yourself. And here's the thing about generic advice: you never quite understand what it means because it lacks that depth, it lacks detail, it lacks very profound comprehension of what that even means. And here's the thing: like the reason why generic advice does not work is because it's not. First of all, it's generic. Here's another reason why it doesn't work. It's because it's been passed on through so many freaking people already. Everybody's telling you the same thing that eventually it starts to lose its power. And that's the bad part here, because even though be yourself, for me, if somebody told me to be myself, I could break that down for myself. I can break it down in my head, and of course, it could, to some extent, it could make sense. And I'll explain this a little bit later when I was telling you about, like, when I was telling you earlier about how you can break down how you can make use of generic advice and turn it into advice that you can actually use. Well, I can do that. But here's the thing: for the average person who's just starting off their journey, you can't do that. It takes some practice, and it's a specific skill that you got to develop. Like, you hear somebody say be yourself, or go all at it, go be yourself, go just do it. I can't even remember all this generic advice at this point, because I just don't even pay attention to it. And I'm pretty sure most of you don't pay attention to it either, and probably you're forced to pay attention to it by somebody close to you or something, and it's just freaking annoying because you just don't understand it. It just doesn't make any sense to you, and it has absolutely no meaning to your life. So then here's the thing: like, you have to stop. Okay, so don't blame yourself if you're if you're this person who receives this type of advice, and then you feel like it doesn't work, because it actually, it's kind of meant for it not to work at this point, because like I said, it just lacks that personal depth. And then here's the other thing: you see, people will not take advice unless it's specifically tailored to them. Okay, and a lot of people don't believe this, but here's the thing: like, when I give advice, I need to know the person very well. Actually, the more I know the person, the better the advice I can give them, because I can understand the place they're coming from. Okay, and people like to take advice from people who feel like they understand them. Like, okay, like, if you're gonna give me advice, I need you. I need to feel like you understand me, like you've been through what I've been through, and you understand my emotions, you understand the logical situation, you understand the structure that's going on, and that you understand my thinking pattern as well. Like, where am I in life right now? Like, what's my age? Like, what's what would be the best action step that I can take? And so here's the thing: like, with generic advice, you can give a generic advice without even knowing the person. Like, I can tell you to be yourself, and that's it. Call it a day. I don't have to make this long ass video. I could just be like, be yourself, and we are done, sir. Hopefully that helps. And that is just bad. That's just the worst. So that's why I do not like generic advice, because it's so generic. It lacks that specificity, and it just lacks so many things that good advice can actually provide you with. So what can you actually do? What can you actually do? Okay, so I just say, if you're the person who's receiving this advice, and you want to make use of generic advice, like I was saying previously, Well, here's the thing, like you have to take that generic advice and you take that thing to Google, all right? You take that thing to Google, and then in Google you go and you find a video of a professional who can actually break down what that even means. And you do this many times because there's a lot of videos out there, or you can do blogs, whatever your method of learning is. You go and perhaps you even want to grab a book, whatever it is that you want to do, go and do more research on that specific generic advice. Okay, so if it's be yourself, go and get a book or go on Google, search for a blog or a video that teaches you exactly how to be yourself and what that even means. Because here's the thing, like it really comes down to the specific source that you're learning from. So if you learn better by reading, then perhaps you should go and get a book or read a blog. Or if you're like me and you learn better through video, then perhaps you want to go and get a video, on YouTube or something, or perhaps even buy a video course or something that can really help you understand what be yourself actually means. But here's the thing, like that's really what you want to do, because like I said, generic advice has no specificity. Oh man, I'm getting tongue tied towards all this damn video and shit. But this is raw video, but first of all, that's for the people who are receiving the advice. And if you're the one giving the advice, please stop giving this advice to people, right? Because it is not being useful, and you're probably making those people angry at you because you're giving them this generic advice, and they're going out there and they don't understand what this even means, and they're operating under the lack of information, and this is just the worst. Believe me, this is the worst, okay? You don't want your friends, your family, whoever you're giving this advice to go out there and start implementing things with lack of information, because this is just going to create more frustration on the other side, and it's just horrible. You don't want that. I mean, unless you hate the person and you want to go and give them generic advice, and this would probably be a good way to do it, but I'm not advocating that, all right? We're all good people here with good hearts, and we're trying to help each other out, so please do not do that. But yeah, like I was saying, like do your research, go down the rabbit hole, as my boss would say. And yeah, I mean, generic advice, you can make use of it, or you can discard it, because generic advice is just generic advice. It's sort of like treat generic advice as like a starting point, like a point of awareness, like it's bringing awareness to you, like you just had like a new idea, like, oh my god, like that sounds good, like the advice of just do it. Just do it is just very like, okay, like what do you mean by just do it? Because there's specific things you just don't want to just do it, because you need to actually think it through, or perhaps the consequences can be pretty harsh. So it doesn't apply for everything, so you have to understand where it applies. And like I said, generic advice does not provide you with that. It just kind of says just go in and just do it. And I'm not going to be the one to tell you that. So like, yeah, just do it. There are situations where it does apply and you just want to actually throw yourself in, but you have to know exactly why you're doing it, and how you're doing it, and for what reason, what purpose. And yeah, so I hope this video really helped you. I know it kind of went a little long, but I'm just trying to share my thoughts here with you guys, and like I hope I can help you guys out. And if you have any specific video topics you want me to cover, please let me know. I will be making more and more, adding to the series. Anyway, it's Almaya Lewis, and I am checking out.